you're listening to the Neil Lampton Show. My name's Joey, and like loonies, I've got 5 on it this week, so I'm joined by Paul.
All right, mate.
By Neil.
Hello, everyone.
By Dom.
Hi there.
And by Laurie.
All right, Joey.
That has got to be the world record for disappointment from a fellow podcaster. Absolutely, just a sigh from Paul there before saying his own name. You looking forward to this one, mate?
I had a really weird day yesterday. I think everyone obviously had a weird day yesterday because we were expecting to be crowned champions, which obviously occurred. And I think we all knew we were going to be crowned champions. And regardless of what anyone says from any other club about anything, we were crowned champions not because of COVID-19, not because of the lockdown. We were crowned champions because we were the best team in the division. And we rightly got promoted, we're rightly champions, and we will always be champions of the 2019-2020 season. The disappointment, and I know it sounds odd to say there's a disappointment, is we all knew we were going to get promoted in Blackpool and have the greatest day of all time on a glorious sunny day in Blackpool, celebrating with the people who we'd watched Cov play in League Two with. So that having that snatched away was a bit strange. And then yesterday, after that, we went for a bike ride, me and my youngest. And it was a bit chilly, so it's like, okay, put the jumper on. So grab the Cov jumper, put it on, and then went for a bike ride. And as people may or may not know, we live in Manchester. And we went round Sale Water Park. And as we were cycling towards the golf course, this guy goes, "Is that a Cov top?" And it's like, "Yeah." And it's like, it started off, it's like, "I'm from Cov." And it's like, okay. And it was like, "I had a season ticket." And it was like, "Oh, so you're a Cov fan?" And he was like, yeah. So we had a chat. And he was like, "I'm really excited. Next season, we're going to go to Blackburn. We're going to go." And it's like, oh, this is it's for all the sort of things that were slightly disappointing for me about the fact we didn't win the title, how I imagined we were going to win the title. The fact that there were lots of Cov fans who were like, "This is amazing. Like, I'm going to get back into it. I'm going to go to games next season. We're sort of back in the big time." And it's like, that was sort of the lift I needed, which was like, actually, yeah, this is brilliant, isn't it? We're sort of back getting towards the top table again. That having someone's enthusiasm, who obviously was a Lay Cov fan, who hadn't been for a couple of years, didn't go to Wembley either time, was suddenly enthused again. It was like, yeah, this is a big thing. And this is an amazing thing. Let's really embrace this. It's not the way we would have wanted it, but we deserve this. We were the best team, as we'll discuss in the next whatever. But it's been a brilliant season. It's just ended in a shit way, but we've had seasons ending in a shit way with relegation. This has ended in an amazing way. We're actually champions for the first time since 1967.
Can I add to that excitement in terms of how we go into the championship as well, which is something that I've been thinking about over the last few weeks, is we probably couldn't be at a better time. So my understanding is the 3 teams that are going to go down from the championship in all likelihood are the 3 teams that went up, aren't they? So it's Barnsley, Luton and someone. Doesn't matter. I wonder whether this is, economically speaking, the best possible opportunity for us to have got promoted to the championship, because this is going to completely level the economic field, isn't it? Teams that would have gone out in the championship and spent £6 million on a striker won't be able to, but we will still be able to go out and sign the odd player here and there, which is what most will do. So whilst we probably, in other circumstances, might have got promoted into a league that might have been sort of financially above what we could do and suffer for it, I wonder whether this is also the best. I know it's terrible to sort of capitalise on people's suffering and whatever, and I don't mean the people that have been ill and whatever, I'm on about the other football clubs, but actually this is a really good opportunity for us to not go straight back down, isn't it?
You'd hope so, wouldn't you?
And I think also, you look at it and this isn't a team that's going to fall apart, is it? I mean, obviously a couple of loanees are going to go back, but this isn't a whole. Even if we'd have got promoted under Tony Mowbray, 4 or 5 of our best players were loan players, and we're about to discuss a group of players where the majority of them are still ours. We've got a bedrock to build from. Yeah, we need to improve in a couple of locations, but I don't think we need a whole change of squad. We probably need 5 good championship players. But
tie
you also
down,
got
tie down Bakker to a long-term contract, presumably first thing for you, Paul.
him and Hawula, obviously.
Hawula, of course, yeah.
And
Fire Matty Godden out of a cannon, presumably next on the list for you, Paul. Hater
I'd buy
of
a new
goals.
striker. Obviously, I'd buy a new striker. I'd replace McFadden as well. But let's not go down the negative route to start off with. But as I said, I think we are in. I think you're right. I think we're in a very strong position as a team that's got promoted. You look at some of the other teams got promoted. Luton got promoted as well, didn't they, last season?
Yeah.
And they got relegated. And obviously, out of those, like Luton lost a manager who basically got them promoted. And then they've now reappointed him, but they were obviously a team that was suffering a little bit. So I think we've got that nice continuity as well.
Okay. Let's start off with moments of lockdown then, shall we? So, obviously we got made champions. That doesn't really count. Let's go for something possibly a touch more light-hearted. Has anyone actually got one to start us off, or are we all frantically check what happened over the last 3 months?
The reduced price of kits.
Oh, Paul, hit me with that. Go on.
Well, it was like check on the club shop. Oh, shirts are cheap. So, like Mary's got the one of the teak jumpers. Kate's got the away shirt. I've got the away shirt. I bought a pair of black shorts as well. I own 2 this season as pairs of shorts, which is just bizarre. So just like having really nice kits, and then them actually doing an end of year sale, which is something that Nike never did. So you're also sort of 1 day, 4 days on the bounce, Kate wore different Cov shirts. It's like the swelling of pride. Go on. Embrace that Covness.
I'm actually infuriated by the reduction in prices because, as you say, Nike didn't, and I always banked on them doing so. And the big one that I missed out on was the green and black away shirt that they did, which is a work of art, but is now completely unavailable because I'm such a skinflint. Because these kits were so good, I bit the bullet when they weren't reduced in January and bought all 3 for an eye-watering price. And to see them now slashed in price is galling to a man like me who likes a bargain. I feel like
any listeners in reimburse you, or can we do a fun Joey? I'll either reimburse you for the money you've spent, or somebody has they got that black and green one that they can give to you because you deserve that.
Well, that is a tragedy, isn't it? I haven't got. There's only a few shirts missing from recent years that have been of any sort of notoriety. That one is a huge omission from.
And you're always banging on about the black and green ones, aren't you?
Oh,
They're
God,
your favourite.
the black and green, but the only thing I love more than the black and green football shirts are a delicious bargain. And so my dedication towards value for money ended up thwarting my second. It was a battle of loves, unfortunately, and shirts came out bottom. But what has been nice, I was able to buy all 3 of the baby kits for my baby for like nothing, and that was really good. And now me and him dress the same, and that's the best thing in the world. And it's been nice seeing on Twitter how many people have been able to get the shirts and stuff and feel happy, and it looks like a nice sort of community-ish thing, doesn't it? I think it has, all jokes aside, it has been really, really nice, hasn't it, that they've been a bit more affordable.
It helps, doesn't it?
They're in 2 of them are in the National Football Museum at the moment. The black and white,
and white,
and the blue are both in the National Football Museum's strip exhibition. Anyone else got anything less boring than what I've just said?
I mean, I've been racking my brains trying to think of which of the recent tweets I'm going to tell my grandkids about, and there's nothing notable. Although I would throw out to the club who've been doing their darndest recently just to keep things interesting on social media. I quite enjoyed Fine Jordan Shipley with the world's worst Photoshop on purpose. I'm absolutely sure it was, so that's fine, but we'll allow it. But no, I thought that was quite interesting. But as someone who deals in social media, I know how tricky it has been recently, just trying to keep people engaged or not force it upon them. So I think they've done a good job recently. So fair play to Mark Hornby and the rest of the team.
Yeah, coming up with your own content is tough, isn't it? I suppose. So fair play to anybody.
Hard work, man.
Then anyone else? Dom, Laurie?
The only thing I can think of, and this might sound a little garish on this podcast, but actually the podcast you've been doing with the players have been really good. I've really enjoyed the Biggie one.
Guys.
In particular, that was great.
Yeah.
Wasn't it Spike Milligan who once turned to Prince Charles and called him a fucking creep?
Was it those exact words, Paul?
I think it was. Something like that, wasn't it?
That seems a bit stronger than I remember. I don't think it was quite that bad.
Wasn't not that strong.
I don't know. That was a bit filthy.
Because it was at an award ceremony, wasn't it? It was
Yeah.
like the BAFTA or something. Because Prince Charles was like, "You're amazing. You're like my hero my entire life," and Spike Milligan just shot him down into like 2 words.
Apparently, it was
I'm Googling, but carry on.
grovelling bastard. Was
Grovelling
apparently
bastard,
the
yeah,
That
phrase.
was it.
Yeah, I was going to say, calling Prince Charles a fucking creep on telly is probably taking it a bit far.
But yeah, thanks, Dom.
Groveling Bastard's not that far off, though, is it?
True. Yeah, they're both a bit mean, aren't they?
They are very mean. They've been a joy to do, haven't they? It's just been it's been nice to hear how nice and grounded people have been.
Yeah, and just also the idea that people can sit through and listen to them for that long, because I'm always very wary of. It's a lot of talking.
It is a lot
but
of talking.
We're doing it, and we're engaged for that amount of time, and you just hope that other people are. But we get so many nice comments from people saying, "Do more." So the public are asking for it, so we will deliver.
We'll try.
And
Yeah.
it was also very nice of them to give up their time because, there are obviously pod fan casts and all that sort of jazz, which obviously, we've got a lot more kudos or a lot more exposure than we have. So the fact they've actually, especially like Chris Kirkland, who is, without besmirching anyone else, obviously quite a famous person and quite a high-profile player, to actually come on and be as open and free with his time as he was just quite amazing. It's just like,
Yeah.
they didn't have to do it, and all those people were more than willing to. And I think all of them, I didn't do all of them, but the ones I did, you get the feeling that people would have happily spoke for another half hour or an hour. Like everyone was really generous with their time and with their openness. We didn't hide anything from the listeners. There was nothing that was said that we cut or we sort of, they didn't tell us anything off air that we didn't broadcast, other than like Chris Stokes was a bit. I think he had like a more interesting sort of time, didn't he? But out of everyone, they were all so generous with their time, and it was really pleasure to sort of speak to people who, some of them are definite heroes and people who've gone on to have really big careers. It was just quite a sort of nice thing to do.
It's tricky, isn't it? Because you've got to draw a line when you're asking the questions. Paul, I thought you were brilliant with your questions with Chris Kirkland, but you can't. It was funny with Chris Stokes because, as you say, it felt like he could have been drawn into some really quite forthright opinions, but you don't want to put someone in a really difficult position, do you? And you don't want to be sensationalist, and you don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable. You just want them to try and sort of recollect good memories. But as soon as he did start sticking the boot into one or two people, there was that bit of me that was like, probably pull at this a little bit more.
What would Taxman do?
Well, let's see whether you just think, no, that's not very nice, is it? We should try and bring positivity into the world, but it is really compelling to be like, tell me more about that.
I sent a message to my mate not long afterwards, and he went, "Oh, anything interesting?" I went, "Yeah, the players we thought were shit." So did Chris Stokes.
Yeah, that was good. Laurie, your moments of lockdown.
I think like lockdown's been quite funny for me because, like, as you were saying before, Joey, I've actually quite enjoyed the whole situation because as a semi-introvert, I just don't really mind just staying in my house and just going cycling and just doing my job in my house. But the main thing that was missing from my life was Cov, and that only really became clear after maybe 6 weeks or so. And then it became really clear that I was just missing it really badly. So I don't think there have really been any Cov highs during lockdown, and even yesterday, as Paul mentioned earlier, I found it really hard to get on board with like being elated about going up because football isn't about seeing something announced on a screen and then you technically having superiority over people. I couldn't care less about that. I almost would have preferred to go up second or go up in the playoffs, just anything for that like fan community. I would have just like cut off my right arm to have it, but you can moan about that all day. I am glad we're up, but all I can think about is being back in a stand surrounded by smelly people that I don't know who I love because they love Cov. But yeah, I don't really have any highlights.
Where are you? Go on, Paul.
I was trying to explain to a mate of mine. I call it the final whistle moment. And he was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "However, even if we'd have played on the Saturday and Rotherham had played on the Sunday, and we'd won the title because they lost, you still got that final whistle emotion where you're all sort of waiting for something together wherever you are, and then the next game we could have all had a big celebration. And finding out you've won promotion on Twitter, it's like, it's just not, there's no burst of emotion. It was just oh, great, it's finally over. And as I said, it's sort of, before I get from Laurie, it was almost like I knew this was going to happen, and I thought I was really looking forward to it. And when it happened, it was like, oh, that's it. It's like, you know, the season wasn't going to restart. You know it wasn't, and you know that we were not going to get to watch Coventry lift the trophy. I mean, you weren't going to be there. Like, the first thing that Mary said was like, "Oh, does that mean we get to run on the pitch next season?" And it's like, well, no. And
it's also go for it, Mary, but you'll get arrested.
Well, I think basically I told her that if we won promotion, let's face it, if we would have won promotion at Blackpool, there'd have been so many Cov fans there that they would have gone on the pitch. And I might have snuck Mary on because I've been on the pitch with about 4,000 other people. But it's like, it's that sort of thing, isn't it? It's sort of I think, and as I was talking to my mate Pritchard about yesterday, and it's that the players won't get that. Like, some of these players will probably never win another title. They might win promotion, but they won't. It's unlikely that most of them will be in a team that clearly was the best team, and they deserve the adulation they would have got for that lap of honour. They deserve that emotion they would have. I know Callum O'Hare did his, but it's like there's a difference between doing that and being on the pitch, and also having like the fans and the players deserve that moment, because that's what you're striving for. As you say, it's sort of you're not striving to sort of find out your team's won. So I know this is us, but we go to a lot of games, and for us, football is a very emotional experience. By, as you say, it's the people around you. It's experiencing that sort of community, which you get at clubs like Cov, because you see the same people home and away. You get that sort of community spirit where, shit, you're the guy who stood in front of me at sort of Notts County away, or you're the guy who was next to me at fucking Rochdale when it was freezing cold, we lost 2-0, and that sort of shit. And that's what is the thing that sort of, for me, is like the hardest thing is I didn't get to celebrate us winning promotion with the guys, or us winning the championship with guys I've been going to Cov with for like 25 years.
I know.
And it's like,
and based on how long it's taken for this to happen, that might be the last time we ever do it.
Yeah, and it's like, and as I was talking pretty sure I was like, doesn't matter, you know, this is the team's on a roll. You know, this isn't the end of it. And you're like, I really hope it isn't. But that doesn't mean that I'm not sat here just going, we were going to win promotion. We were the better team. We were clearly the better team. As like you look at the form. The form's ridiculous. Like, since Christmas, so since January the 1st, we'd played, I think, 15 games and won 12 of them, and drawn 3 or something like that.
Since December the 21st, we've drawn 3 games.
Yeah, we were absolutely on fire. Like, not destroying teams, but we were winning virtually every game by the odd goal. But we were winning every game by the odd goal. Like, we were going to win that title. We were 5 points clear with a game.
I think there is something positive to come out of this, if it's like in a kind of broader point, which is we're getting a window into what football would be like if you just basically relegate supporting fans to second-tier citizens, and all you do is sell TV rights for the most money you can possibly get, because that's all they care about now anyway, is people who watch football on TV, hence VAR, hence all of that stuff. And seeing fans siloed in this way, we're still kind of in the honeymoon period at the moment, where people are still like this semi-novelty. All right, be watching games on BBC, watching games on Amazon that are free to air. But once that novelty wears off and you start to genuinely lose that sense of like fan community, what will football look like then? Like, what's football going to look like in October, November? Are we just going to see people like watching less football? Like, will people just get bored of watching football when it's got like sex toys in the stands and like pumped in crowd noise? Like, is that a spectacle people want to watch? So I think if anything good can come out of this, it's just this cannot ever happen again.
Laurie, do you think COVID was caused by 5G?
Well, I'm not ruling it out, put it that way.
Do you think this is... Yeah, I'm only joking. I know what you mean. Let's do... I haven't really got a moment of lockdown, but I am going to throw in one from yesterday. Did anybody see on Twitter what was clearly inebriated Matty Godden threatening to get amongst it yesterday? And then, I don't think he was the only one. There was a Jordan Shipley thing where he tweeted that thing of Homer Simpson going back into the bush. But Godden, from looking at it, I have a list set up of Cov players where you look at them, and mainly just to see what Jimmy McNulty's saying. But Godden sent maybe 4 or 5 tweets over the space of like 3 hours where he was like, fucking come on. Everyone in town, we're having it.
It must be killing Jordan Shipley the most. If he can celebrate a game when we draw 1-1 and he hasn't been on the pitch by taking his shirt off and going to the away end, imagine what he would have done in Coventry City Centre when we've won the league and he's actually contributed. He just set himself on fire.
Actual machine gun just at the top of the bus, just laying waste to it.
I need to see it.
Okay, right. So, we're going for the traditional end of season awards podcast at this point here, which actually I guess is normal service resumed, isn't it? This is probably we're probably about a month late, aren't we, for when we would normally be doing it? Is that right? When would we normally be finished?
Yeah, we'd normally. Well, no, we'd
win the playoffs and then we get it.
Yeah,
we'd have probably been
about a month after.
We'd have probably been so lazy that we'd have been doing this around this time anyway, wouldn't we? Because we would have just been, bored of the fact that we'd have finished 14th again in any normal season. So, Paul, we'll start us off with first category.
All right, first category. We'll start with Dom. Who was the best youth player this season? Well, class youth as player who sort of probably, this is their first full season.
Yeah, so it's sort of an interesting question because I think there's only really one answer because quite a lot of the players in our squad right now sort of were at least sort of marginally involved last season, and I think there's only one sort of super sort of young player who's obviously made a breakout season, and that's Sam McCallum.
What about Zainbrook?
I know he hasn't played a lot of football. I think it's just because he's just slightly older. He's sort of 23, 24. So it doesn't quite ring true to me to class him as sort of a properly young player. Plus also Sam McCallum.
I agree with you on Zainbrook. I'm saying it as devil's advocate because I think it is so clear that it's probably McCallum. But it is Westbrook's first season proper, isn't it, of really playing anywhere, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, I suppose.
Let's not preempt the next question, please.
So, Dom, you're going for McCallum. Has anyone got anything else to throw in there at that point, or...?
I thought Josh Pask looked good every time I saw him. I was really impressed. I thought he played really well. He was right wing back against Blues in the Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he had a really good game. He had a centre-back game against someone else, didn't he? Where he seemed to slot in really easily. Just looked like a good, without using a sort of a bit of a cliche, but he looked a very athletic, composed player who, I thought he looked good whenever he got a chance.
Yeah, I did, yeah.
All right, next, Laurie.
Yeah.
Who had the breakthrough this season? Who sort of was a player you sort of thought of in the past, but finally came through and you thought, yeah, this guy is a first teamer?
Looking at the squad now, so someone who's presumably been in the team before. Is it okay to say someone like Dominic Hyam?
That's insane. Didn't he win our player of the season last season?
Yeah, he was fairly important, really.
It's the worst.
Well,
it's the worst
answer. You're looking through the squad and you're just like, well, who can you pick? Like, there's either new loan players, there's people who haven't played ever, like Jody Jones. You could pick people who had big seasons last year, like Brandon Mason.
No.
Have just been completely phased out.
What you can't pick is anyone who had a big season last season, because, Paul, if you could repeat the question. Maybe you haven't understood the question.
I have an answer as well. I'm ready to give.
Go on, Neil.
Go on, please, Neil. Save me.
I want to say Michael Rose, because we didn't really know what it was all about.
There we go.
Last year. He came in And he started off a little bit, I thought, a little bit shaky. We weren't too sure about him, but he established himself in that back three by the end of it. And I think, there's rumours knocking about that he and Hyam are going to make it into the Scotland squad and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, for me, if I wasn't going to say McCallum, but I probably would say McCallum, but we've already mentioned him. But I think Michael Rose is one who, because I didn't know of him, has come through. And now I do know of him, I'm keen on him.
He's literally the only player you could have picked. So
you could have gone for Westbrook.
He could have said anyone above Dom Hyam and it would have been more legitimate answer than that. What I want to ask at this point,
you pushed me under the bus there.
What I want to know at this point, Paul, is, I don't know what questions you're going to ask, but I want to be clear that we do talk about Javain Castanier at some point. So in terms of breakthrough player, perhaps that's where it's going to be, because in terms of breaking through, no one player simultaneously did and didn't as much as Javain Castanier did.
This is a question for you. On that sort of on that scheme, how many defeats did Gibello play in?
My guess would be none.
Yeah.
None.
His record is amazing.
Yeah.
How many defeats did anyone play in? We lost 3 games all season.
No, we lost. Well, I think we lost 5 in the end, because including the cuts. But I think his record was like he won 8 of his 10 games or something ridiculous.
Legend, club legend.
It's working, wasn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. So Neil, most improved. So this will be from previous seasons. Who you were a bit unsure about, but really sort of came on and sort
Dominic
of stumped.
I'm going to go with Westbrook, because we saw hints of him the previous season, but there was nothing that said he was going to be a first teamer for me. And even at the end, obviously, he wasn't like a full-blown first teamer. Whenever he played with Shipley, he felt part of the team and he felt part of the dynamic, and he was contributing. So he went from someone who I just thought was going to be on the periphery to someone who actually had a real big contribution to make all season long. So yeah, I think he deserves a lot of credit for just kind of stepping up. And even though he didn't necessarily play well a lot of the time, he was getting a load of assists and he was getting his goals, and he was just making it very, very difficult for him to drop. Naturally, Robin still dropped him, but he was doing everything he could do really in terms of numbers to keep himself in the team. So fair play to him.
The next one's possibly the most difficult question, because it could be about 6 people. But Joey, who had the best journey during the season? Who really sort of developed either their game, their place in the team, or basically you were a bit unsure of them at the start, or they just started a bit slowly, but by the end of it, you could see them sort of making their way into the championship really easily?
So if we're going to go for less best journey and most interesting journey, I would say Callum O'Hare, because I'm looking through the amount of appearances that people have made this season. I'm surprised to see he played 40 games. Of those 40 games, he was a massive mixture of starts and subs. And he went through starting off on the bench and joining ever so slightly later than the season had kicked off. Is that right? I think we had kicked off by the time he'd signed, hadn't he?
Yeah, it was a few games in.
Then he came off the bench and had massive impact, then started starting games and was possibly a bit overrun, then dropped back out of the team, and then by the time the season had finished, he seemed somehow completely essential, didn't he? So I think that's a really strange journey for him to have had through the season. In terms of the more linear kind of progression of, it's hard to look past Dabo, isn't it? Who started, I thought, fine, but then if you look on Twitter, people are saying player of the season. He's almost unanimous at this point for who the best player was in the team.
Alongside, I guess, Liam Walsh is another one who I would put in the same category, where he came in, he looked neat enough, but that second half of the season, he stepped up and he was outstanding, and he became a championship player in League One, very, very obviously. So he's the other one I'll throw in there as a name of someone who's just really progressed from someone who was good. We liked him, but I wasn't too sure whether he was in first team for us, to suddenly how do you play without this guy?
I'd throw McFadden as well.
Yeah, that's a very good. That's probably the biggest gap to have traversed over the course of the season. Yeah, because there was a point where I would have spat on his back if I'd have seen him out in public. But by the end of the season, I'd have gone full bore, shook his hand.
Can we look at it as a reverse journey as well? In reverse journey, I'd probably say Geordie Hawula as the biggest reverse journey.
Yeah.
Coming into the season as our top scorer and erstwhile greatest attacking outlet to being genuinely probably people getting his first name wrong by January within the club, forgetting who he was, or like locking him out of the training ground. Just like, who's this lad? Because
he didn't help himself, did he? Because there was those early games at St Andrews where Jordan Shipley kept giving him chances to like on a plate, and he kept missing the target, and it just didn't go for him, did it? If one of those early chances, was it Wimbledon at home where he had about 4 absolute sitters, and you were like, if you put one of those away, you know that could be a big turning point for you this season. And he just, because he kept getting the chances but didn't put them away, suddenly he found himself lower and lower, and to the point where he was just forgotten. And I think did he not play because he was injured, or did he refuse to play for? Am I misreading?
He got banished pretty much after that penalty miss.
He missed a penalty, MK didn't.
MK Dons, and then just Robbins did pure Robbins and punished him for months. It seemed.
Sent him
I don't know
into
if he was...
Peter Vicente's cave. You two.
All right, back to Dom. That's probably an easy one, but best loan.
I'll think about this for a second. Liam Walsh. I mean, as you were saying, it wasn't just that. At the start of the season, you could see the player was there, but it was just he did cost us quite a few goals in his sort of first few games. The Blackpool game, which was his first start, I think for both goals, he basically just got completely muscled off the ball. And against AFC Wimbledon, he conceded that penalty, which was just sort of quite clumsy. It just seemed like he was sort of one of those players with a bit of talent, but just didn't have the game awareness, and just that step up he's taken over the course of the season, where he just looks like someone who can just completely sort of bend a game to his will. Starting with that winner against AFC Wimbledon, that goal against Rochdale, and just moments like that. But there were sort of the subtler moments where he just sort of had to step through the gears. I thought we saw that in both of the FA Cup games against Birmingham, where it was him sort of starting to impose himself on the midfield in the first game that really got us into it after we started. We just looked like we'd been caught completely cold at the start. And then in extra time, when he just came on as a substitute, and immediately we just looked like we could keep the ball and move it a lot more effectively. And I think that's sort of the impact you want from that sort of ball-playing midfielder, where they just become that hub of the side.
Him coming on in that Birmingham game, I don't think I've ever seen a bigger transformation in a Cov game from a centre midfielder coming on. It was like we were just a completely different team. It was unbelievable. And Birmingham must have just been like, where the hell has this lad been? Who are Cov not to be starting, who's clearly their best player by about 5 marks?
Was that the replay?
The replay, yeah.
Because the first game he was outstanding, second half, wasn't he? That was the one that stood out for me. I didn't see the replay, so the fact that we wouldn't play the best player in the park in the second game is a bit mad. But it sounds like that was his level. He was playing against players who he felt totally comfortable against.
Can I throw in a quick quiz at this point in the proceedings?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We first of all, does anyone hazard a guess at how many players we loaned in this season across the course of the entire season?
6.
So I've got 5 here, but this is from Wikipedia, so it's probably wrong. The quiz is, one of them was Sam McCallum, which is back from Norwich. So I'm not going to give you I'm not going to try and cheat you on that one. Can you name the other 4?
O'Hare.
Walsh, Watson. Watson.
Yeah.
O'Hare.
One more.
And that lad who played 1 minute. The kid from Wolves, as he was affectionately known.
I'm going to need a name, please. Ryan Giles. Dom. Look at Dom lurking in the wings. That was magnanimous of you to know all of those answers and then wait until we were going to get them to finish it off. Good work from you.
Good guy.
I'm going to... This might sound really cruel now. I was... Obviously, everyone loved Callum O'Hare. You're not a bit disappointed he only got 3 league goals?
Yes and no.
He still felt like he contributed, didn't he?
Yeah, I just you know, he sort of almost feels like he could have achieved, and he did it. Like it's almost like I'm not knocking him, but I am. I think he was a brilliant, but it's just like players like that need a bit more end product, and I have no idea where he's going to go with his career. But he's 22, like he just turned 22, so he's not a kid, not like an 18-year-old kid. He's sort of now getting to that point where his next move for him is massive, because there's talk of him turning down a contract at Villa. There is talk of him sort of maybe coming to Cov if we offer him something. Obviously, we don't know what's going to happen with that, but he's got, like, next season has got to be an absolute kick on for him. And it just feels like, as you say, he was in and out of the team this season. He did amazing things, but he did have some really quiet games as well. But it's just like that's where he's got to improve next, isn't it? Because he is that attacking midfielder. You're not going to play him in central midfield. He's got to be an attacking player, but he's got to start weighing in with more goals if he's going to take his career to the next step. I'm not
totally sure I agree with that. And I know this is something that I banged on about all season, but I think he's a trick player, isn't he? So by the end of the season, I fell in love with him because of what he was doing that wasn't that stuff. And it's the same reason that I've banged on about Shinji Okazaki for years on this podcast with nobody caring. I think that there are certain players who can add an unbelievable amount of value without putting big numbers up, and I think he's exactly that guy. I think he's a decoy. I think he's a menace. I think he wins the ball back. I think it's a way of playing when you're counter-attacking that is really unbelievably helpful, because a player like that wins the ball so incredibly high up the pitch and causes such a problem for defenders.
And then people back off as well.
Yeah, I think there was it. I think actually, as long as you've got him near a Godden who is putting up enough numbers, and you've got goals throughout the team, and he's getting the odd few himself, I think you can accommodate him. And it looks like he only made 18 starts by the looks of it. So actually, 18 starts, 3 goals. It's not the worst return, is it?
But I mean,
that's why that Southend goal is so great, because that's just perfect Callum O'Hare. He just picks it up so high up the pitch. Everyone backs off because they're just like, we're terrified of this guy. And then he just runs towards goal, and it's not even a particularly good finish. He kind of kicks it just like vaguely towards the keeper, and even the keeper's so scared of him that he just lets it go for him as well. But you're just like, that's what he adds to you. You just got like a set of defenders who are just terrified and backing off. So yeah, I know what you mean with the lack of end product to some extent, but every time he was in our team, I felt better.
Yeah, I agree with that. But I think I only just realised this. He basically scored 1 league goal after after September the 7th.
Again,
for the rest of the season.
All the rest of the goals did count, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, no, not. But the thing is, there's only 2 of them before that as well. He got 2 in his first 5. In fact, he's got 2 in his first 3 league games, and then scored 1 more in his remaining 26 league appearances. As I said, it's just, for me, I think the sort of player he is, he should be getting up to about 8 or 10, especially in a team that was so dominant. I think, and obviously he had that fucking miss against Birmingham, which will never be forgiven for. But I know what you're saying about his all-round game, but I think he needs to be, next season, I think if he was at Cov, obviously, I think next season's going to be a completely different ball game from this season. And he didn't score that many in a team that was clearly better than everyone else. Next season, I think we are going to need to score more goals because we're going to concede more goals. So I think that end product would need to be, because I don't think you can rely on one person. Anyway,
what I would say for it, and then you can have your riposte. I think if he was going to go back to Villa and play in the Championship, I think he'd need to score a lot more goals. I think if he scored 3 or 4 for us next season, we'd probably allow him. I think we'd probably struggle if that was what was happening. But I know what you mean to an extent.
That's what I mean. I think that's what I mean. I think for us to survive and prosper next season, I think we're not going to concede as few as we did this season. Our defensive record, like we conceded 30 and 34, which is a fantastic record, but we only scored 48, which isn't that great. I think next season you can clearly see it's going to be unlikely we're going to keep as many clean sheets next season. I think next season we will need to score more goals. And it's like players like O'Hare will need to score them.
You say that, but we've got players like Dom Hyam coming through who I expect to have an impact next season. So.
I've heard big things about him. Laurie, as we're mocking you, best goal last season?
Best goal, hands down, Max Biamu away at Peterborough. That goal.
Oh, mate.
The Liam Walsh one, I mainly am biased towards things that I was physically there for. And the Liam Walsh goal was amazing in loads of ways. But I don't think I've ever been in a stadium before where I haven't really celebrated a Cov goal. I've just spun round screaming at the people next to me like, I can't, that didn't happen, that didn't happen, that didn't happen. Because it was just absolutely absurd. I can still just see it perfectly in my mind's eye now. That floated diagonal ball, I think it's from Liam Kelly. And is it Godden who's in front of him or something? I think he's kind of expecting Biamu to leave it. And Biamu doesn't even look at the keeper. He just because this is the life he lives now of bicycle kicks and cyclone kicks. And he was like, this is my vibe. I shoot from here. And obviously it's Peterborough away as well, so it's a massive game. And I think at that point it's 1-1. It takes 2-1, doesn't it? Yeah. Madison scored that penalty for them. And he doesn't just connect, he hits it so hard that the keeper is past the keeper before he's even dived. And it was just a massive moment because it's 85th minute and you're like, he's not just scored the goal of the season, he scored goal of the season against one of the best teams in the league away from home. And we'd been so many times when you're a Cov fan, you watch us apply the pressure, and you're like, all right, score when you're playing well, and we never do it. That was one of the times when we have been applying pressure and we needed to convert it. And it was just petering out, and then he does that. And his celebration is just so good. Some of those photos they've got of him celebrating that are just amazing. Yeah. And Callum O'Hare's face in the background, who just got a face that reflects everyone in the away end, just surely not. It was a magical goal to witness.
Unbelievable season of goals, though, so it would be good to hear other people's contenders.
Honourable mention, I would say, for Matty Godden hat-trick goal.
Against
Yes. So the Jordan, mainly for the Jordan Shipley flick, because you can just think he's like, right, I'm going to be Zola here. And once you've been Zola, you really, really want someone to put it away, because it makes the goal so special. So that is, for me, I think the Liam Walsh one is my number one, but I think someone else, it's already been mentioned, and someone else is going to say it anyway. But that was the one where I look at it and thinking, that is something special, and for it to be a hat-trick goal and for it to kind of be just so perfectly executed. Exactly. It was such a huge game against supposedly the best team in the league. Turns out we were the best team in the league, so it was better. But yeah, that was awesome.
Dom, any others?
He hits it so hard as well.
Wrong foot as well. Yeah, it's mega.
Yeah, so I was sort of thinking, see sort of any alternatives to that Liam Walsh goal against Rochelle, which is mine, because I was there, and it was just that moment of just sheer drama on a sort of cold November afternoon against 1-1. It just really looks like that the game was petering out, and then just Liam Walsh was like, hold on a second, I've got this.
Yeah.
But the one I'm thinking of, I've been watching the goals back because I've been doing my season review. The number of just really solidly good finishes that Zane Westbrook pulls off. And I think the thing that sort of holds him back is that he never really seems to hit anything with power. It's just all these sort of just lovely, perfectly placed finishes. Starting with that goal against Southend, but that free kick against Oxford is lovely.
The ultimate pass.
And the one he scored against Lincoln is really good, where Kelly took a shot. It just flecks up in the air. He's just outside the penalty area. Just calmly guides that back into the back of the net. That was just lovely. But another alternative suggestion that came to me was just for a very good team goal. The second goal against Birmingham in the FA Cup replay.
Yeah.
It's just this really lovely sweeping move into plays 1-2s, and it just falls perfectly for Biamu to calmly tuck away. It's a great moment.
That was also the goal I think I celebrated the hardest the entire season.
Yeah.
Because the fact that you could just see it coming from a mile off, it was just like this team move is just cutting them to pieces, and it looked like we were actually going to win it there.
If we're
I would
talking-
do another couple of sexy mentions for Callum O'Hare's goal at Oxford, where he smashes it in off the underside of the bar and it doesn't even hit the net. And it's like, who is this guy? He just scores when he wants. That was amazing. And also Sam McCallum scored a long-range curler, didn't he, with his wrong
from
foot?
8 million yards out as well. So in the first minute of the game as well.
Yeah,
That was
it was a
decent.
goal.
I
And
have
Jaimie Allen's
one more.
goal at Bristol Rovers I really liked.
Yeah,
which
that
had
was
a beautiful
very good.
bit of Michael Rose stamped all over it with like a Lucio-esque run out of centre back. That was really nice.
We've not talked
Sounds
about.
like we had quite a few then.
Oh, we've had there's more that I want to chuck in as well. One quickly because
Wait,
he's
didn't
not.
Castaneer and Jabello scored some naughty ones as well?
Castaneer
Castaneer
off
did.
both posts on his debut.
Yeah. Then
What
pushing
a-
people out the way
Yeah.
when he was having the
Absolute
celebration.
filth bag. Yeah.
On that
You got to say
goal,
God in against Portsmouth as well. Just that Robbie Keane-esque flick.
Yeah.
I thought that was gorgeous.
Sorry, go on, Dom.
so on that goal, did you see today, like the celebrations video they put on
Yeah.
Twitter? The Castaneer celebration for that goal is absolutely crazy. He runs over to, I think, 85 Ash and just completely poleaxes him. Just like trying to like get a cover for it. I watched that about 7 times in a row just to like figure out what actually happened there, because the reaction of like the coaching staff around him is like they actually seem quite angry at Castaneer for doing that.
Dom, did you have
Basically, it's
other
all-
additions?
No, that was it.
You're all wrong. It's Bakayoko against Doncaster in the 89th minute.
Well, I was going to say there's any number of 5-yard Bakayoko tap-ins that we've not talked about.
I mean,
We've also-
that got us back into the game. I mean, that was possibly at that moment it was the difference between us winning the title and not.
We've
He will have
also
you
not
know.
talked about a goal that was by far not the best goal, but in terms of celebrating, it was absolutely magical, which was Michael Rose's, the third against Portsmouth.
Oh, wow.
Was an
Yeah.
absolute, with 9 men, to just be up from a corner and just knock it in like that, nonchalantly. It wasn't
9
even that
individual celebrations as well.
absolutely, and that game was just such a joy to watch, wasn't it? And just that goal going in, you were like, wow, this is going to be a mad season, isn't it?
Yeah.
What
Honourable mention to Shipley as well for his goal away at Doncaster, which prompted the start of the aeroplane celebrations.
in the same way that historians or sort of bad historians might look back on the 2012 Champions League final and see John Terry in a kit and assume he played, historians might look at the celebrations for these goals and assume that Jordan Shipley got 40 this season. Right, Paul, next question.
Next question. So our best goal. I will jump into best match, most enjoyable match, and it's back to you, Joey. No, it's not. It's Neil. Sorry, I misread the N. Best match. Neil.
What is a full different name?
I haven't written a full name. I've written an N and a J.
That is efficient. I'll give you that.
Similar. Really,
fuck
that's
you
really
lot.
hard. That's a really hard one, but I'm going to say the one that Joey just mentioned. Actually, I think the Portsmouth one, the 3-3, was just all round insane, and just for not expecting to get anything out of it and to still get something out of it. I'm glad you guys have got to say some more, because we couldn't leave it at just one. But in terms of sheer excitement, but also just enthusiasm for what actually happened with the result, yeah, that one was just mental. And also Castaneer just sliding when he was on a yellow card and doing that. I mean, to have the sheer lunacy in your mind to think this is a great idea.
50-yard slide.
And then to then plead your innocence and say, well, I didn't get the man. Doesn't matter, mate. You're going to throw a punch at someone, you're probably going to get sent off either. So, yeah.
Like a man who never slide tackled in his entire life. He'd just sort of been... Somebody had mentioned to him before the game, they were like, yeah, there's this thing you can do where you can sort of like... and he's like, oh, I like the sound of that. I'll see what I can do. Wickham, we talked about 4-1, was just mega, weren't it?
And this season we just seem to do things in sets. Like that Wickham game came as a pair with 2 4-1 away wins in a row, which is just like not only in a row within 3 days. And we did our defeats in a pair as well. And the Portsmouth 3-all came 11 days before Oxford 3-all, which I would personally say was my favourite game of the season. Because
and that was a full week before the best game of the season, which was a 3-2 victory over Blackpool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, and what a day.
Yes, because that was 2 days before my 40th birthday. So that automatically wins.
Absolutely delicious day that was, yeah.
Sorry, Laura, butted into your 3-3 with Oxford.
No, that's right.
Was that the Dabo game?
Oxford was amazing, yeah, because Dabo, the gift of Dabo, where he just 2 own goals, and then he assists the Godden goal with his kind of like delicate diagonal cross. But it was mainly great because I brought the girl that I was seeing at the time to this game. And you know when you bring someone to a game and you're a bit nervous, you're like, oh, it is normally shit. Like, I'm sorry in advance for how boring this is going to be. And then you take them to, like, the best game you've ever seen. And you're walking away from them, they're like, yeah, I can't wait to come to the next one. You're like, no, you're never coming again. That's it. Quit when you're ahead. That's as good as it gets. Even though we conceded a last-minute equaliser, I was like, that was phenomenal in every way. There was, like, a fight between us and the home fans. There was so much going on. It was like perfectly swung. There were good goals. There was Dabo. Yeah, and it was funny. It was great.
Very quickly, just in case it doesn't come up, Paul, have you got worst individual performance on that list?
Do you want to know something? And I know this will absolutely shock you. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got about 12, 13 questions. And the first word for all of them is best.
No, that's
that's which says most.
And I'm glad because I'm hoping that we don't do a load of negative questions in a season where we've been so brilliant. But what I wanted to say was that it's only a performance as bad as McFadzean's against Rotherham could be 2 own goals in a game from someone. I would contest that McFadzean had a even numerical more significant damaging impact on that game against Rotherham than Dabo did with 2 very specific own goals.
I think also from a nerd point of view, probably the biggest and best game of the season was on Wednesday the 23rd of October against Fleetwood, which is the game where we changed to the 4-2-1 system, which has obviously been the bedrock of our season. Because at that point, McFadzean had been dropped. Liam Kelly I think we seem to forget that Liam Kelly was in and out of the team at the start of the season, not due to form, due to injury. So that was the game where he came back in. I think he then basically started every game.
Did Biamu come in the same game?
Yeah, Biamu came on because obviously the only time we'd seen Biamu before that was his fiasco on the against Bolton. Because I didn't realise Kelly basically didn't play the whole month of September, and then was basically finding his feet back by the time that we played Fleetwood, and then after Fleetwood he was obviously then a starter for the rest of the season. So that game really did change the trajectory of our season because. Up to that point, we discussed we hadn't really lost anything, but we weren't we were drawn a lot. We weren't the machine we turned into, which was just metronomic. We were like a bit all over the place, but that changed to having, and I think when you've got three of your best players in your squad are your centre halves, which turned out to be with Callum O'Hare's upgrading form, it seems silly not to utilise that. And then obviously Dabo and Sam McCullum's sort of athleticism and so go back to Davo. Davo's just been amazing this season. I've seen that sort of development after we've been quite lucky with right backs over the last couple of years, but I think Dabo is possibly the best of the 3. Is that a fair shout?
No, 100%, yeah.
Or is that just because he's the most recent one I've seen?
No, but it's totally fair. You put him pound for pound, you've got to say he is a machine, an absolute machine, and it's what he showed at certain points last year was just we were very, very lucky to have him in our team because he was standout.
He's not perfect though. I feel like but he's very much not perfect. I feel like he's much more of an enigma than someone like.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, he's more. He was right back every single game. He was. He was good every single game, pretty much. He had a few bad ones, but I think he was more good than he was weird.
Which you'd hope for someone who's apparently the best player in our team.
How good does your right wing back have to be in the championship winning team for him to be an almost unanimous decision for this isn't a striker who scored 30 goals. You have to be a pretty good right wing back to supersede everyone else in the team. That's like, you've got a brilliant defence and a good keeper and a striker that scored a load of goals, but it's still your right wing back. Like, it's such an unfashionable position. You'd have to concede he's been pretty good to get to that sort of
but
level.
I would actually contend that often you find with these like supporter awards and like winning player of the season, you find more often that like slightly more boring players win it than you would expect. You do get more wins for centre backs and centre midfielders and those kind of positions because people who watch every game see that they're like reliable and capable. But I feel like Dabo really did transform himself for the second half of the season. That first half, his like possession capability of keeping possession and having a decent first touch was very much not
your
reliable.
point is so contrary that you can't even finish it.
You see, the thing is, I
feel just people just like, it's the peak end effect. He's like, people remember good things that happened recently,
Sure.
and it's so easy to like wash the rest of the season, and I'm just not having it.
He's not that watchable, though, is he? I mean, he was just...
That was finally when you finished that point. I sort of started to agree with you a little bit, but come on.
I think the thing with Dabo, I think I'd make two very quick points about Dabo, and I think it's very much a case of why our fullbacks seem to get a lot of praise and stick, is because all Cov fans normally at the moment are sat down one stand, and I think you, as Laurie says, I think sometimes you remember the things which happen directly in front of you. When if you're behind the goal, you've got more of a perspective on the whole pitch. So I always felt this with Grimmer, especially in the second half of the League Two season, was in the second half, if we were attacking and he was on our right-hand side right in front of us, and he kept getting lots of time and space. People thought he was having a great game because he seemed to have loads of time and space, but it was all mainly because we were trying to win the game and he was one of the attacking outlets, so he had lots of time and space. What he did with the ball then was a bit up in the air. I think the difference with Dabo is, I think over the season he has developed, and when you're talking about his use of possession, towards the end of the season, his ability to control the ball and take people on in tight spaces and use the ball wisely was immeasurably higher than his ability at the start of the season. And you could tell that he was someone who naturally is an athlete. I mean, his work rate is phenomenal.
Yeah.
But what really stood out for me was the fact that he had weaknesses in his games, and quite clear weaknesses in his games. But by the end of the season, he had done so much work to minimise those and eradicate those. And I think that's what, for me, why he's up there for player of the season. It's not because he was our best player. I think, going back to the journey, I think he had the biggest journey of a solid, reliable right back to, fuck, this guy is actually one of the best players in the best team. And his performances were, towards the end of the season, were consistently 8s out of 10, which is just, I think, is full credit to the guy, because it must be quite easy to rest on your laurels when you're first choice right back in the best team. He didn't. He actually developed as a player as we watched him. And I think that's the big difference for me on Dabo over most of the players.
I think your point on stamina is one that I would very much agree with, and probably the thing that blows me away about him the most, because he had this unerring knack in the last 10 minutes of the game when everyone else was beat. He would suddenly start to look even better, and he would go on these insane marauding runs that he didn't really crack out at the start of the game. I remember particularly Birmingham away in the FA Cup replay. In extra time, he suddenly got this second wind that no one else had, and he started just bamboozling the left side of Birmingham's defence. And you're like, Fancati, where are you getting this energy from? Like, it's absolutely bonkers. And I think, at this level, like, that can just make a huge difference. And I completely agree that he was, in the second half of that season, as an attacking outlet, just unreal.
Wing-back is a bizarre position for a start, because there is no position that has such a heavy emphasis on physical exertion, is there? You have to be all things to all people to make it work. And as you say, to be able to not only... Even McCallum had periods where it was Mason that was in the team. Dabo played pretty much every single game, and even towards the end of the season was still just absolutely relentless. That takes some kind of dedication, and I think I sometimes value kind of work rate, physicality above a lot of other things. But my word, the guy is an absolute tank. There were times in the last 10 minutes of games where he'd be pushing forward, where you just thought, if you were an opposition player, you'd just be like, oh mate, give it a rest, please. Just not in the mood for it anymore. It's been 90 minutes so far. I need you running at me. It's like this loud, like a tank. Get out of my life. And I just think there was an element of that about our play overall throughout the season. We scored a lot of late goals and we had a lot of tenacity and determination. I think he just summed up that style of play for me so beautifully. So perhaps there's something of me rolling up everything that I liked about the team into him, but that I just thought he was, especially to when we were at our best, he was defensively and offensively just impeccable, I thought.
There's a couple of players like that, isn't there? I think Walsh is the same, where Walsh was... What we were trying to achieve was embodied by Liam Walsh in the fact that he was just a really talented, consistent footballer. And again, another player who, as Laurie said earlier, sort of made mistakes at the start of the season, which he seemed to, he learned from those and he got better as he learned. And at Sunderland away, it was one of those things, stop doing that. Stop making those mistakes. And by the time he played Sunderland at home, he wasn't making those mistakes. And we've talked about this a lot over the years on this podcast. It's players getting game time, isn't it? And being developed. And I think, again, another person we discussed quite a lot who deserves a lot of credit is obviously Vivish, who is a top-end coach, an absolute top-end coach. And when we've spoke to some of the players who have worked for him, that nothing but praise for the guy. Like, he is, I think, for him to come when he did to a club of our size, I think is just, I think, we probably don't understand how much of a gift that is, how much we've been blessed by having a coach who obviously was so highly thought of that Chelsea put him in charge of their kids. They're not going to put any old mug in charge of their kids. And you can see, I mean, the way that we play, I know people call it Robins ball, but we didn't play like this the last time Robins was here. Robins has never played like this in his entire managerial career. Yeah. Now we play like this, and it's down, and this isn't me taking anything away from Robins, because clearly Robins has done an amazing job since he came back. But it's a partnership. They are a partnership, and I wouldn't want to lose either of them because I think they both add so much.
If anything, all it does is strengthens the argument that Robins is good, because part of what that job must be is about working out who to get to do what. So actually, if there's someone better equipped to do that stuff, then get them to do it. Really, you're a director at that point, aren't you? You don't do all of the nitty-gritty yourself. You get the right people to do the right job. So I don't think it's any dismissal of what Robins' impact is. Presumably, he saw you hope that he saw someone that could do the job really well and has got the best out of him. It's if anything, it's sort of more praise for him. The thing with Vivash or Vivish, whichever you'd prefer, is I remember starting a new job sort of, January last year, and my trainer was a Chelsea fan, and when he found out that I was a Cov fan, the first thing that he said was, "You've got AD Vivash come to you, haven't you?" And I said, "Yeah, that's such a strange thing for you to know." And he said, "No, the guy's a legend. The guy is just an absolute full-on, absolute superstar." And I was really surprised by that, because I just thought, I'm not sure how many Premier League clubs would know who they're not used. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't seem like a standout. He just said, "No, the guy is superb." And yeah, but then that's turned out to be the case.
All right, Joey, best signing. So full-time signing, which let's assume for a second that it isn't Dabo.
I mean, yeah, you're right. I love Michael Rose. I think I love Michael Rose more than most people do. But I haven't got a lot more to say about that, because I just think there's only so much you can say about a really dependable centre back, isn't there?
I've got a good one for this.
Go on.
I think I've got the same, but go on.
Marco Morosi.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, good shout, yeah.
100 million%. Much as we debated, I think it's probably more to the point, much how he spoke about Lee Burge last year, and we were very much in his corner for most of the season. How little we've had to speak about Marco Morosi this year is just testament to what he's done for our defence and our general style of play. he's so good with the ball. His distribution is really decent, and he's just also made some pretty phenomenal saves at times. And I think this team is a team based on defence, and he is such a huge part of that. And the fact he's sometimes doing the job of two people, like doing Carl McFadden's job and his own. So he for me is just like, I can't believe Doncaster got rid of him. Who even is Doncaster's keeper? Can't be better than him.
Dom, everyone is looking at you.
Yeah. Well, they had a lone keeper from QPR, Seni Dieng, who
That's great.
I was pretty impressed with when we played them at St Andrews, just in terms of somebody who just confidently, just consistently, just plucking those crosses out of the air. Just I really like that in the goalkeeper, and I agree with a lot of what you say about Morosi, but I think if there is one deficiency in his game, it's the confidence he has under crosses. I think we do a good job of obscuring that, and I think that's part of why our defensive unit works, where I think there's an understanding that Morosi is probably going to stay on his line, and McFadden, Rose or Hyam have got to attack those crosses, and that's worked quite well. We haven't actually conceded too many goals from set pieces this season, and I think that's played a role. Whereas with Burge, he was sort of caught between those two stools, where you could tell maybe he wasn't the most confident under crosses, but that was sort of what he felt his obligation was. I think that sort of dynamic between the goalkeeper and defence has been quite interesting in a number of ways this season. But it would be interesting to see how he sets up to the Championship, where he'll presumably be more busy. I think we'll get a better indication of just sort of how good a general goalkeeper Morosi is next season.
Paul?
I think that's a perfectly fair comment. I think Morosi is. I do like Morosi, but I completely agree with Dom. I think almost you couldn't have asked for a better team to be goalkeeper of this season than the team with three extremely good defenders who. And we've discussed this in the past again. It's like we've got three defenders who don't appear to have that overarching weakness. If the ball's in the air, you're happy for any one of our three centre halves to be up for the duel of trying to win it. And they're all very good readers of the ball into the box. So he's not really been challenged in some of the ways that other goalkeepers would have been done. I think he's fine. I think he's good. I think he's good at what we need him for. But in the same way, a couple of years ago when we had Reece Charles Cook and we had Lee Burge, and you were like, if you're an attacking team, you want Reece Charles Cook. If you're a defensive team, you want Lee Burge. Next season will be interesting to see how he copes with probably having a bit more pressure on him, because, as I said, we're not going to keep as many clean sheets as we did this season. We're not going to. I'll be very surprised if the against is as low as it is this season. So I agree. I think the step up of level and quality of strikers will be a big marker of where he's at. But I think he's where we're starting from, isn't he? We're starting from a strong position. I don't think, I'm not saying we should go and look for another goalkeeper. I agree. I think he's had a really good season. But I sort of, like Dom, I think you've got to reserve judgment of how good he actually is until we step up a level. But you could probably say the same about some of the others. I mean, interestingly, go on to the next question. Next question was like,
can I before you go to the next question, I think it's important at this point just to say Matty Godden as a signing. I look back again at the goals that he scored second half of the season, the guys in many respects won us the league. The goals, they're winning goals all over the place. And while we had our own discussions about how he was contributing to matches as a whole, those goals that he scored and the fact that we finished the season on March the 7th, suddenly you realise just how important they were. So as a signing, he came in, scored 15 goals, and I think it's very, very noteworthy. Whether he becomes the striker next year is a totally different question. I think there are questions over whether we then need to go a step above him. But I think he's very, very worthy of a mention there.
I just wanted to chime in with one more point just to prove your point, Dom, which was that Morosi has faced the second least shots in the entire league and has made some of the fewest saves in the whole division as well. So that makes sense what you've said. He's actually had fuck all to do.
I just final player on the best signing. I just thought I'd add in because we haven't really mentioned him, and I think mainly due to his injuries. Jaimie Allen looks like a really interesting, and I feel sorry for him because I think if he'd have been fit, I think he would have been definitely up there with one of the best signings from what we've seen of him. By the time he hit his stride towards the end of the season, he was looking very strong.
Yep.
Just feel a bit sorry for. I mean, he's not going to get some of the kudos of other players because he missed a lot of the season, but also he's not as noteworthy as some of the other players. He's not as showy as even Westbrook's more showy than Allen. He's basically just he's there, isn't he? He's just constant. But it would have been interesting. I mean, he's another one who's going to have to step up next season. All right, next question.
Which player ran in a straight line the absolute best this season?
Right. Next one is out the players who. Yeah, we'll ignore that. If we exclude the wing backs and we'll class them as midfielders, out of the three centre halves and the keeper, just probably one word because we've discussed them all now. Who out of those four wins your defensive player of the year? Start with Dom.
I'm going with that young, improving buck, Dominic Hyam.
God, even
Laurie?
you're sticking the knife in. Yeah, got to go with young up-and-comer Dom Hyam as well. Just because it's his first season in professional football, maybe.
Yeah, I'd say Hyam, yeah.
Neil?
Same as, Hyam.
That was a bit easier than
Well, it's fair to, even though it's been unanimous that we'd all say Hyam, I think we'd probably all say that there's not much to pick between them, is there? McFadzean had
done their job.
More difficult, and Rose was fantastic all season, albeit in a sort of I think it'd be I think Hyam and Rose pretty much had the same season, didn't they? But Hyam, you get the impression, possibly it's unfair on Rose. Part of the thing with Hyam is that we've gone from seeing him as a youth player in a ill-fitting suit come up to that thingy when we were doing the whatever, to him being like a really, really dominant centre-half that you think you can easily play in the Championship, I think. With Rose is that you've not seen that progress, and possibly it's a kind of a rose-tinted thing, no pun intended, with Hyam, that you are looking at it in terms of his progression. Whereas Rose, you've just got that one isolated season where he's been good.
I also think in a non-footballing sense, probably what McFadzean adds in the dressing room that we don't get to see is probably massive as well, because he is just a massive, ugly lump who's just been there, done it all. He's 32. Yep. He's like 10 years older than most of these players. And I think even for the mistakes he makes, like having him around must be great for those two.
I mean, I don't get many things wrong, as you all know, but I didn't think Hyam would be a player that could easily just continually step up. And every time you see him, you're like, this is just easy. He's one of those players, and Rose would have been an interesting one. If we hadn't have won promotion, if we'd have finished third or something and then not gone up in the playoffs or whatever, I think teams in the Championship would have been mad not to look at Hyam. I think he's just made that progression look so easy from a player who, as we all had like, I mean, the Yeovil game where he was horrendous in League Two, where you just like, this kid has really got to sort of change something about, there's nothing going for him here. To 2 years later, you're like, first team on the steam sheet in the Championship. Basically was out the team, but is so good that we another reason we've changed the three at the back to make sure that we had all three of them on the pitch, and just getting better each time we see him. I think a lot of praise needs to go to Hyam. All right, we're going to include just the defensive midfielders in this bit. So Kelly, Walsh, and the wing backs. Who's the best midfielder, or who's had the best midfielder this season? Laurie?
I mean, I'm just a complete softie for Liam Kelly. He's not our best player, but he is my favourite, even though he's much less glam than Liam Walsh. So I'm just going to stick my neck out and say I like Liam Kelly the best.
Joey?
I I really loved Liam Walsh from the moment I saw him, because I like a big dynamic boy like that. And so I'd struggled to think. I know that I've banged on about how brilliant Dabo is, but Walsh hasn't been far behind that. And you're right, there were periods where we were wondering why he would be sat just in front of the defence playing 5-yard passes to opposition players, but that was pretty quickly eradicated, weren't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a spell we all go through.
Yes, yeah.
Teething, passing the ball to the opposition. All part of development.
Since then, the thing that I think about with his season was against, what was it, Rotherham at home in that really decisive 1-1 draw, was a really crucial moment of the game. There's that moment of the skill, isn't there, where where literally just the entire crowd is on their feet and really, do you remember what I mean? It's on the very far left, and then he just leaves a player for dust. It is so audacious, and you just think you're...
Is that right on the byline? That one?
Yeah. You just think you're not meant to be doing that. That's not what. And they obviously the goal of the season contender that you just think you were sort of brought in. My understanding of what you were all about was you were meant to come in and shore things up a bit. What are you doing? This is part of the script. That is incredible stuff, isn't it? To kind of think, well, that is a real gift to have, to be able to get people up on their feet. So I love Liam Kelly, and I really want a team of sort of practical workhorses. But to have one that could also do a bit of magic is gorgeous, isn't it?
Dom?
Yeah, you've got to go with Walsh, sort of just one of those players who you're just excited about seeing each week. So yeah, definitely my kind of player.
Neil?
Yeah, props to Kelly for doing the bizzo in midfield. I think stepping up and doing a bit of a Doyle work. I think he's become that role model in the middle. But same as the others, Walsh.
Can we just have a quick word for the season's leading appearance maker?
Shipdog.
Yeah, who I think up to maybe sort of, February, I think probably would have been most people's shout for player of the season at that point, wouldn't they? Which is where your argument about Dabo and Walsh to a certain extent, Laurie, comes into play, where we are front-loaded on what's happened most recently. Shipley had a brilliant season, all round.
We haven't got to Shipley yet.
Well, you were saying midfielder, weren't you?
Yeah, he's in the attacking bit. Otherwise, the attacking is like one person.
I'm not sure.
It's the two people behind the one person. Hence the fact I said best midfielder.
You can't
I explained who those players were.
I'm not having Shipley as an attacker.
But he played behind the striker. He played as a support striker.
Formations don't exist. Money is a social construct. Let's just.
I'm ignoring you. Very quick question to everyone. By Christmas, just a yes or no. By Christmas, is Liam Kelly still in the team in the Championship? Laurie. Or, end of January, because they've got a transfer window then. End of January, is Liam Kelly still in the team in the Championship? Yes or no?
I think based on his ability to overhaul his entire footballing personality in seasons gone by, yes. He's going to be our Andy King.
Neil?
Yeah, I give him the benefit of the doubt as well. I think we need someone like him, and I think we don't need him to be fantasy. We just need him to be a leader in the middle. So I think he's got it in him.
Joey?
I'd say, 100%.
Dom?
I'm going to say no, just based on the extent to which Robbins tends to overhaul the squad quicker than you'd expect. So he'd be sort of one of the players I think might be hovering sort of outside of the sort of starting plans. But yeah.
So I left you to the end because I knew you'd be on the same page as me. For me, it was the performances against Birmingham where it just took him half an hour to get up to the match speed. With everyone else sort of, I know it didn't help you alongside Walsh
in that game.
Yeah, it was just like the whole pace of the game. He needed, and he might get that over 10 games. He might.
Yeah.
He might get up to. But my worry would be that we can't afford him to have 10 games to get up to speed. And it was just, when you watched him alongside Walsh was just at it. It was like, okay, this is my level. With Liam Kelly, it was like, shit! And then he sort of calmed down, shit! And then he calmed down. And it was just like, you're
not wrong,
can't panic. And it's sort of, so I'd love to him. I really like him. I'm not, I think he's great at what he does. my concern would be that he's a very strong League One player. And the step up is going to be, he's going to be one of those people who will be interested to see how he steps up, because I think it's difficult for that sort of midfielder. And he's a player who spent a lot of his career in the lower levels where you get much more time, and midfield is a battleground in the Championship. And he's going to have to be on it with his possession, but also on it, just not even the use of the ball, but on it, just like you've got the ball, but you don't have the time you're expecting here. You're going to be under the pressure, and you're going to have to make those passes count. So I think he's one of the ones that's going to be a big interest one for. Anyway, best attacker, which is including Jordan Shipley and Westbrook and Callum O'Hare and Jaimie Allen and Castanier and all those.
I want to hear you go first on this one, Paul.
Well, it's clearly Bakayoko. I know. That's why I didn't go. That's why I don't even answer these questions. Neil?
It's an interesting one. I want to say I want to name 3 people. I know this is bad of me, but for overall impact, I think Godden for the goals. I think O'Hare for just genuine quality. But all the way through the season, I think Shipley just he played really well all the way through, and he kind of adapted to wherever he was needed. And he stepped up, and his arrogance is off the charts as well, which is amazing. So all of those things.
20 years' time when we're still doing this podcast, Shipley's going to be like, next lockdown, Shipley, we're going to do a five-pod one with you. We're going to get you in every night for a week. Tell us about those tweets you were sending when you were telling everyone to meet at Broadgate, and then you had to call back on them because the club told you not to do it.
We should be offering Jordan Shipley a contract to be assistant manager to whoever is in charge at the club the second that he retires. There is no one I want on the sidelines more than Jordan Shipley, right in the other manager's face, like celebrating goals, just really like a cheer. I'd give him pom-poms so that he could be a literal cheerleader while he's doing it.
All right, Joey, as you spoke, best attacker?
You'd be churlish not to say Matty Godden because he's an actual attacker as opposed to a midfielder, Paul. And actually
7 goals. Fucking Shipley got 7 goals.
But I thought Shipley was brilliant all season. But the Matty Godden. Obviously this is like a personal preference thing, but I just love Biamu, and I think that there was a certain level to which him and Kelly coming back in that game really did turn the season round, and I also think that Biamu really chipped in with really important goals when he was called upon. But I just think he gives the crowd such a lift as well, doesn't he? I think people like seeing him on the pitch, and I just think he was great in a different way. You're obviously not as many saying that, he got 11 goals in total, didn't he? But we know that only league goals count, so he only got 4. But
he got 4. Yeah, he got the same as Bakayoko.
Ergo, the two are as good as each other.
Just throwing it out there. He got the same. He got the same as Westbrook. I mean, yeah. I think Biamu's. I think we just love him, don't we? Because of who he is. I think that's as much as anything. I think he's one of those players who you just take to your heart because you can, apart from when he's elbowing people in the face.
Especially when he's elbowing people in the face. What game you're watching? No, I obviously he hasn't had the same tangible, either numerical or sort of subjective impact as someone like Godden or Shipley. But there's something Doyle-esque about what it does to a team and to the fans when there is a sort of totem on the pitch. And I'm not sure there's a greater one than him that we've got at the club at the minute.
Laurie?
I think in terms of watching a player in like Madison-esque feeling that it gives me to watch my team with a player like that in it, Callum O'Hare, just because he just gives me the tingles when I'm watching him in our team. I'm just like, I can't believe I'm supporting a team that has Callum O'Hare in it, because when he was on, he was just unplayable and just like an absolute pleasure to watch. But I think Jordan Shipley just has a special place in my heart because he is such a limited player in so many ways. But not only will he like absolutely run himself into the ground for Cov, he takes risks all the time and he will make a lot of mistakes. But what that also results in is the impact he does have tend to be game-changing ones. he makes assists, he makes goals, and he just has an impact. He rarely plays things safe, and so you get a lot of size associated with Jordan Shipley, but you also get a lot of moments where if Shipley wasn't in the team, you're not drawing or winning that game. So I have a lot of love for Shipley.
Dom?
So hard because I think sort of almost everyone in that area who's played regularly has sort of been playing around a similar level. So it's sort of really hard to split hairs between them. But I think you just got to go with Godin just because of the amount of important goals that he scored. I mean that, like the goals against Portsmouth, Sunderland, Ipswich, they're all sort of season-changing goals. So I think you got to lean that way.
And then a final, I know we've discussed this over and just a one-worder, best player this season. You're allowed to meet one person out of lockdown. You can come to your house. You can shake him by the hand. Who's coming to your house, Joey? Who's coming to your house?
I'm going Dabo.
Laurie?
Oh my God, that's hard. I can't fucking say Dab after all this. Oh Christ! O'Hare, my favourite.
Neil?
Walsh.
Dom?
Walsh.
Paul?
I'm gonna break with tradition and say that
God.
For the first time in a no, but for the first time in a long time, I actually like probably 95% of our players.
That's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah. And like I think all season we've been a team we're consistent. We don't have wide spectrums of like the Cole Baker period where you had Cole Baker. You didn't know if he was going to be amazing or shit, but he was going to be one or the two. We've had no one like that, apart from maybe Castaneer. But we've got a team which just
What's a spectrum?
Yeah, Castaneer is the spectrum. But we've just had. I think we've talked in glowing praises, or at least someone spoke in glowing praises about virtually everyone in our team, and even the players I don't particularly like that much or have had issues with this season, like McFadden, has really turned it round. I mean, I'm still touch and go with Godden. I know what you're saying, but there's still part of me that's like, yeah, he's a striker in the best team. He scored goals. Well done, son. But for him, it's like next season he has to be. We can't have a spell where he doesn't score in 12 games next season because we'll be in the bottom three. So it's a big step up for him because we can't have this season again. I know he scored 14 goals. That's brilliant. But there was still a long period where he didn't score. We can't, if we're going to keep with this system, the striker next season is going to have to be around about 10 at halfway. Otherwise, we're going to be in deep shit. So, all kudos, top goal scorer. You were the best team. Great. But for me, a bit like the Morosi thing, next season is going to be the acid test of were you just in the best team or are you a really good player? And as I said at the very start of this, my biggest regret is the fact that if we don't sign them, we won't be able to say thank you to people like Walsh and O'Hare and those players who, some of them. I know Bakayoko's a bit of a joke for us this season, but he has been he's scored 4 goals. He's been a bit of a key player. He's probably going to be released, and it's players like that who they're going to get released. They're going to go down to League One. We might not see them again for a while, and players like that again deserve the credit of being part of the championship winning team. So it's a bit disappointing for that, but overall, I just think we had a really strong team. And it's the first time in my life where you can't pick out an absolute weak link. So I don't really have a best player. I just have, this has been the best season we've had since I've been alive, really.
Do you think there'll be some nice moments when we do come up against people like Walsh and Bakayoko? And it'll be the first time we've seen them as a fan base. And we'll give them an amazing ovation. I really hope there is stuff like that. Because that would be so fun to do.
As a fan base who booed we booed Darren Huckabee, Like, we're an odd fan base. It's
You
like,
can't trust us,
fucking-
can you?
No, it's like we're probably going to boo them because that's what some of our fans are like. And we played Newcastle. Fucking Michael Owen came on as a sub and he got standing ovation, and you were like, "Fuck off! You booed Hooker."
We booed George Thomas as well. Like, that was
Yeah.
fucking out of order.
Big Jordan
It's
Willis.
Yeah, boo Jordan Willis. Yeah, and I've never been, you know me. I've never been. Not going to boo the guy. It's like players move on. So I don't think he ever let us down through lack of want. It was just a lack of talent. But ultimately, yeah, I like to think that people like Walsh, people like that. I mean, after seeing Callum O'Hare with his Cov shirt bouncing around, I think obviously, and again, we talked about this during our last promotion season, which bizarrely for Coventry isn't 40 years ago, it's 3, is I think a lot of the players bought into it, and I think there's been a good rapport between the players, and I think whether or not that's due to going to St Andrews or whatever, but after every game, win, lose or draw, they always walk past the mass ranks of the Cov fans. There was a good relationship between the players and the fans, a good relationship again between the manager and the fans, and it's like talking about, yeah, we're not in the best position. In fact, we're at St Andrews, but as an actual club and as an actual sort of players and fan base, we're a lot stronger than we've been probably in my lifetime. And it's just like, that's what we've got to look forward to next season.
Michael Rose is always very good for that. He was the main cheerleader at the end of the games. If Shipley wasn't there, Michael Rose was bang on it, which I liked about him.
That's it, really. I've run out of questions now. I think we've covered everything.
I think that's probably a good time for us to wrap it up. A lovely sentiment as
That's
well
lovely.
there from you, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Paul, for putting those together. Right.
That's
Okay
right.
then. So I think that's everything. I'm gonna not ask if there's any questions and instead wrap things up. So thank you very much to Dom.
Yeah, it's good to be on as always.
And thank you for everything this season, Dom. Everything that we know about the rest of the league, we know about because of you, so we would have died without you. Laurie, you've kept to form by letting yourself down today, I feel like. But I think that is a fitting end to your season.
It's my signature move, mate.
Yeah. But
I'm not here to provide valid insight.
and thank you, Neil.
No worries, mate.
And
Thanks.
thank you, Paul.
Cheers, buddy.
Oh, vote for us. The final thing before we go. Yeah. Yeah, vote for us.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please
yeah.
vote for us.
At Neil Lamptey Show. The details are pinned to our Twitter page, and you can go to, I think it's footballcontentawards.com. If you Google Football Content Awards, you can vote on the website. I know it's asking for stuff, but it's free, and we have done this for 8 years and never asked for any money for it. That's about the only thing we ask for. So if you do listen and you have enjoyed it, just do us that favour, please, because it takes 2 seconds, but it does mean a lot to us. I think that's everything, isn't it?
If you prefer to give money, we can also provide.
We would also
something
take
else.
money. That's a good point. Whilst we haven't asked for money, if I were to wake up and money was there, I wouldn't turn it down. Put it that way.
I'm
right.
not so proud to deny your offers of cash.
Yeah, I am. There's anyone knows me, shameless. So that is it's absolutely fine. Right, guys. Thank you so much. Champions, champions, champions. Bye.